Hello, HK and Beyonders. Shaz here with another episode of Hong Kong and Beyond. Leon is here too. Say hi.
Hi all.
So today we are looking at Midnight Fly from 2001. Let's listen to a little bit of the trailer.
I want to get married. I want to get divorced.
I'm traveling with him, so he can see the world.
You know from the beginning. He's married.
So just a little idea as to what this film was about. So we sort of start with a character played by Anita Mui, and she's gone on holiday to Europe. We don't really know why at that point. And she's on a sort of bus tour, like an excursion. And she sort of, becomes acquainted with another single lady traveller, and a relationship develops between the two.
Yeah, that's right. I believe it starts off in France.
I think so, yeah.
And the other lady traveller is like a younger Japanese girl. And she plays a character called Mickey, was it?
That's right, Mickey.
And what was Anita called in this? I can't remember.
Michelle,
yeah. So Mickey and Michelle, they form an unlikely sort of relationship based on the fact that when they first meet, there's a little incident where the Japanese girl on the coach tour throws up over her coat, and there's a bit of angst between them to start off with, which I thought was a very interesting setup for the film.
It was interesting. I, however, thought it was a little harsh of Anita Mui's character not to accept that Mickey was really sorry she threw up all over her coat. These things happen.
Whereas I, on the other hand, may have been a whole lot harsher if it had been me.
So also in this, we have Sean Tam playing a character called Mike, and Simon Yam playing Dr. Tong.
And I think that's probably all the cast members that we need to mention for this film, because it really focuses around them.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? I mean, there's a few other people here and there, but they're not sort of main characters as you would see it.
Yeah, for sure. What I found interesting with this film is it's like two separate films. It's like two tonally separate films. There's two stories that happen within it that are both joined, but it goes from one element to the other. There's a switch.
There is, and I would say maybe we'll have a spoiler section in a minute where we can go into a bit more detail there, because it gives it away a little bit, maybe.
It does. And the director of this one was Jacob Chung.
That's right. So he has also directed A Battle of Wits.
Yes, that was a film that I put on for you very early on, a film with Andy Lau. I kind of like that film. If anybody out there is a fan of the Peter Chan film Warlords, Battle of Wits has a similar sort of feel to it, and I really liked it. I mean, I remember when I first bought that on DVD, I had to keep sending it back. I kept getting a broken copy. I think it was 3 times I sent off for it, and it really drove me nuts. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, it got released on the UK in blue, which was really good. That is a highly recommended film. But as we look down Jacob Chung's filmography, it's surprising to me, as he's such a name, that we've really seen little of his films. I know Ken over at Podcast on Fire has mentioned Yesterday You and Yesterday Me, which he said is a bit like The Wonder Years, but Hong Kong style, which I would really love to see that one.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's interesting. It says here he was in Merry Christmas.
Ah, right.
We watched that one last year, didn't we, for Christmas?
We did. We watched that for Christmas. Which character was he?
I think he was just a colleague of Boldy, so he doesn't even have like a character's name here. So sort of background.
Right. So it seems like he was more of a bit part actor.
He was in He's a Woman, She's a Man, which we recently covered on our YouTube channel. So he was an MTV director in that one. And he's also in The Silent War from 2012, which we've not seen yet, have we? But I think we've got a copy of that one.
We have a copy of that. It's been sat there for a little while. Tony Leung Chu Wai movie, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. I don't know why we haven't put it on. I guess it's just time constraints with everything else that we do.
He's also in C'est la vie, mon chéri, which stars Sean Lau, and I've wanted to see that one for ages, but we've not been able to track it down, have we?
No, Shaz is very much definitely after that one. Keeps mentioning it to me, and this is another opportunity for her to stick the knife in and say, why don't we have that one yet? But I'm keeping my eyes open. When there's a decent copy, an affordable copy, we shall pick it up.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So, Anita Mui, can you remember what the first film was that you saw with her and that we watched? You probably don't, because
It was probably a few years back now, and
it's
my
quite a few
memory's not
years
so
back.
good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. You'll have to remind me.
See, I'm not sure myself whether I might have put on A Better Tomorrow 3,
Ah, okay.
Drunken Master 2, Rumble in the Bronx. Could have been any one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But you know you've seen her in a lot of films. What from her filmography kind of stands out for you? Would it be something like Heroic Trio? Would it be like Rouge, The Ghost Story with Leslie Chung?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, we also saw her recently in Let's Make Laugh.
Yes, she has been in a lot of like those Hong Kong romantic comedies. I believe Let's Make Laugh. We saw that on Netflix. We don't actually own that one, which was Kenny B.
Oh, right, yes.
Was it Cecilia? Yep.
Yes. Yes, it was.
And Let's Make Laugh was directed by Alfred Chung, which a lot of you guys that watch our channel will know we're big fans of him because we covered him in Her Fatal Ways 1, 2 and 3, starring Carol Dodo Cheng. Those films were a lot of fun. And also, he directed Paper Marriage and the recent film from 88 Films, On the Run, with Ewan Bew.
Right, yeah.
So it's funny how we end up going in circles and circles with these actors, directors, and where they appear. And yeah, it's like we're doing a big dot-to-dot picture of Hong Kong films. And as we go along, we're making it more of a tapestry, if you like, weaving all the threads together.
I like that. I think there was also a sort of biopic about Anita recently, wasn't there? And we haven't been able to see that yet, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing that when we can.
Yes, the biopic Anita, which is owned by Disney Plus, I believe, at the moment, and it's Disney Plus everywhere except for here in the UK, which is a shame. We thought we was going to get a copy of that for the Focus Hong Kong video we did last year to stream and do a little review on, but unfortunately that didn't come to be, so we're still waiting in the shadows with all the other Anita fans, hoping that we'll eventually get our hands on that.
Yeah.
I believe there is another Anita film as well. I can't remember what the other one's called, but maybe that we'll go and pick that one up first at some time. I'm not sure. You know, if anybody out there's seen that and can recommend to us, we'd be grateful for your feedback on this. But yeah, Anita Mui, very, very much an icon. And speaking of the Focus Hong Kong video that we did last year, we actually covered her last film in that video. So if you guys didn't see the Focus Hong Kong Making Waves video that we did, because my very boring thumbnail that I put up, then perhaps go and have a little look back, because that film July Rhapsody, which stars her and Jackie Chung, is a really, really good drama. You know, it's we didn't want to lose Anita Mui then. No one did, but what a good film to go out on. You know, it was a real fine last performance.
So also in this was the character Mickey that we've mentioned, and she was played by Juna Reiser.
Yes, I wasn't familiar with her, and I don't think I've really seen anything with her in before.
No, me neither. But we had a little look on her filmography, and she was in an Ultraman film. That sounds impressive, doesn't it?
Yes, well, we're big fans of Super Inframan, which is one of the Shaw Brother films that you twisted my arm into watching, and I became a big fan of. I'm currently wearing the Super Inframan t-shirt as we speak. So yeah, maybe, you know, someday we might come across that. She has a larger, obviously, Japanese filmography. She's got a very good look to her, and acting opposite Anita Murray in this, I think, you can tell her caliber. She's obviously very, very good actress.
Yeah, she was very good in this, wasn't she?
I liked her performance. She certainly had to deliver, on many levels in this film. There was a lot that she had to do for her role.
Yes, there was an awful lot.
想話我殺咗你情人，又呃你嚟呢度。
個個都中意講 sorry，
I'm sorry。
係咪一句 sorry 之後就可以不負責任嘅咧？
你唔應該嚟嘅，因為我一定會殺你滅口。
Right. So, some of the following that we talk about is mentioned in the synopsis on the back of the disc, on the write-ups online and everything. So, it's not really spoilery, but if you don't want to hear that, you can probably jump ahead or go and watch the film and come back. We will put up a final alert before we go into the actual spoilers. But what we'd like to mention now is how the title Midnight Fly refers to a perfume, and that perfume is used by Mickey. And it turns out after a conversation when they're getting drunk together whilst they're on their holiday, they both talk about their personal life a little bit. And Anita Murray is away because she's been cheated on by her husband, who's played by Simon Yam. And Mickey opens up to Anita Murray and says about how unhappy she is in her relationship because the gentleman that she's seeing is married. And it's only because that Anita Murray smells her perfume that she, we get to put the equation together, and we find out that by some freak of chance that the gentleman that Mickey's having an affair with is Anita Murray's husband, because she recognises the smell, and she calls up her husband and gets it confirmed. And that's the basic setup for the film, really, is how these two women form a relationship despite one of them sleeping with the other's husband. And it's like, where do we go from there? And I think you could have made the whole film on that basis and it would have been just as good.
I agree. So before we go any further, we'll just put up a spoiler alert. So if you would like to see this film, then maybe skip on from here.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
So I completely agree. At the point where Michelle realises that Mickey is the one having an affair with her husband, I think the film should maybe have gone in a different direction to how it actually went. Because it went into a whole section where Mickey goes off on her own and she is abducted by some guy who ends up sort of drugging her up and turning her into a prostitute.
Yeah, it's pretty severe, and this second half of the story brings in the other character who we'd met earlier on, which is like a tour guide.
Yes, Mike the tour guide.
Yeah, Mike. So he comes back into it, and Anita goes to him for help because her husband doesn't turn out to be much good. That is basically, we're not going to give away, even in the spoiler section, completely what happens, but that is the setup for the second half of the film. And I don't think it's, even though the film's quite old, it's such a good film. I mean, it's a fantastic film that we really don't want to give away the complete end and how it ends up. Just know that it gets quite harrowing. It's very, very dark from there, and some demanding acting. And you would think that to women who, are torn over a man and coming from different ends. I mean, it's even when she gets abducted, we find out that she's pregnant with
Simon Yam's child, Dr. Tong.
Yeah. So that's another unpleasant bit to the film, and because of how well it's been acted between the two female leads, you buy into what's Anita wanting to find her, and even more so than what Simon Yam would, even though it's his lover.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he finds out she was pregnant, there's a little more emotion that's shown. but he still is a bit spineless,
Yeah.
not really wanting to deal with the situation, wanting to run away from it. Like, oh, well, she's gone now. Let's go back to our lives.
Yeah, there is a sequence where Anita thinks she sees Mickey, and from our viewpoint, it's very much she definitely sees her.
Mm.
And Simon's like not wanting to take that on at all, is he? And you feel like that's a choice he's making.
Mm.
He doesn't want to be dragged down that path,
Mm.
and he just wants to go back and start again with his wife.
But I think it's nice that Michelle has more conviction about her. And okay, this woman's been seeing her husband, but she cares and she wants to try and find her.
Yeah, she kind of finds her endearing, I feel,
Mm.
and feels quite protective towards her. The strength of the film lies within their relationship and their bond.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit different to you here. I like the direction that it went with this film. That's what I like about the Hong Kong cinema, is that sometimes you go in a completely, different direction to what you normally would.
It was just a bit too extreme for me.
Yeah.
I would have just preferred it to have been a sort of gentle, well, maybe gentle's the wrong word, but a drama where it's just the situation's dealt with in a sort of normal manner.
I understand that, but do you not think that this is what perhaps makes this film stand out amongst others of that genre?
I think so. I mean, I think you wouldn't forget this film after you've seen it, because you're always going to remember that second half and what happened to Mickey.
Oh, definitely. It's going to stick in your head and stay with you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I've said to you, I always like watching so many Hong Kong movies. Sometimes you might say, oh, let's have a little break. There's so many the same, so many similar.
Yeah.
Which there is. Some of the Hong Kong movies are formulaic, but the more and more you watch, every now and again you come across one like this, and you're blown away, and you're like, oh my god, I found it. I found the holy grail. This film is incredible. And that's very much how I felt watching this. I felt like I found a lost hidden classic. And if there's any Anita Mui fans out there and you haven't seen this one, I urge you very strongly to find yourself a copy. This is available online, and the Blu-ray's reasonably priced now on the online stores. And if you like what we say about it, I would very much say, go buy it. It's a great film. And it's not just the story and the acting that makes it good. You were quite impressed with the photography early on in the film.
Yeah, there were a few really interesting sort of camera angles. I really liked it at one point. There was like Anita's, bottom half of her legs walking along, trundling her suitcase behind her. But her legs and suitcase weren't in focus. The background was in focus. And I just found that really interesting, because normally it'd be the other way around.
Yeah.
You'd be focusing on the person's legs.
Again, it's a good way of capturing your attention.
Yeah.
Doing something slightly different, slightly off kilter, makes it a more interesting shot than perhaps it would be as a standard shot.
Yeah. And the film made me want to go on holiday. Because they were going on, we mentioned they were going on an excursion, and they were at some sort of old castle or some old, historic building, and going down all the cobbled steps and streets. And I just thought, oh, I want to go and look at some old castle somewhere.
Yes, it did. I'm pretty sure it was reminding you of the old town in Rhodes.
Oh, I love the old town at Rhodes. Yeah.
I did get that feeling as well, and I thought the tour guide, I don't have his name to hand, but he was very much a tour guide.
Yeah.
And I like the commentary on people's attitudes towards people of other race too.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
That was interesting.
Bit cringe.
Yeah. Do you want to give the listeners a little rundown on that scene? Because we thought it was a really good scene.
It was good, but it was just awful. So, where were the people that said it? They were
just tourists, weren't they?
Yeah.
No, they weren't. They were French. They were locals.
Yeah. And they saw Mickey and Michelle sat with each other on one of the trips, and they sort of said, "Oh, what was it? Are you from Japan or something?"
Yeah.
And Michelle says, "No, I'm Chinese." And Mickey says, "I'm Japanese." And the French people were like, "Oh, well, Japanese, Chinese, you all look the same to us." And then Michelle's character says something like, "Oh, well, the French, look just like the English. You all look the same to us," sort of thing. And that made a smile.
That was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And she said it with a all pleasantness about her,
Mm.
but she made her point without being, openly offensive, which, the French in that scene, to me, were being a bit offensive,
Oh
and they
gosh,
didn't
yes.
seem to think they were.
So rude.
So she kind of like woke them up by saying what she said.
Yeah, yeah.
You're saying, well, you're just the same, which was perfect. What a
Yeah.
great little scene.
Yeah.
So much said with so few words and just a couple of looks. And I couldn't think of any actress that could deliver that as well as Anita did.
Mm.
3 times a day, Joe. Never walk away.
你要接受呢個現實，我哋做嘅嘢已經做晒。
So the character Mike, played by Sean Tam, believe he is T. Lung's son.
Yes, indeed. And I guess in some pictures you can see it, and in others, like in this film, I really can't see it.
No, I'd never have known.
But if you look him up, if you type in Sean Tam and look him up on the internet, Google search him, you'll see in the images, and also it will tell you that it is T. Lung's son. And funny enough, he was in July Rhapsody, also with Anita Murray.
How funny.
Weaving those threads, Shaz.
It's getting to become one big tapestry. I believe he was also in the first, or one of the first Blu-rays I ever bought you. Name
Was he?
that Blu-ray.
Which one? I don't know.
Kung Fu Dunk.
He was in Kung Fu Dunk.
Yeah.
Oh my
as
goodness.
Brother Who.
With Jay Chow. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow, that's funny, isn't it? We got another film with him in that I didn't realise. And also we have a film with him in that we got on the Nova Media sale at Christmas that we haven't watched yet. One that I've been waiting years to see, Confession of Pain. So we'll have to slap that on and maybe talk about that. That's Tony Leung Chiu Wai again and Shu Chi's in that. So very much looking forward to that one.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, great cast.
I did like Mike's character in this. I thought there was depth to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit annoying at the beginning, isn't it? Because he's just sort of wanting money, and he won't leave them alone. And I think Anita's character, Michelle, is a bit wary of him.
She is, but he seems quite nice to me, and she seems quite harsh with him. Like he says, "Oh, name your price," and she gives an absolutely stupid old $1.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?" And she said, "Well, you said name your price."
Yeah.
So he manages to borrow it up to $5 to help out, which I can't imagine is a lot in, wherever it is, Morocco. And I think she sacks him, doesn't she, because of him taking on more business when he's taking them around. She really dislikes it. And you think, well, he's just trying to make a living here.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought. And then it's like kind of calmer, isn't it? Because when she initially comes to him, maybe he's not quite as helpful as he could be at first. But we do see character and depth come out of him after that.
Yeah, I think initially he was just, when Michelle sort of went to him and said, "Can you help me find this person?" I think he was just sort of taking the money. And I mean, I don't really think we saw him asking around. He was just sort of spending the money that he was given and coming back with no answers. And then something just sort of happened, and he did take it seriously and went above and beyond, really, didn't he?
He certainly did, yeah. And I like that.
Yeah.
It's a three-dimensional character right there.
Yeah.
And the acting was good, Obviously, he's got the right DNA from his dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, his filmography, it seems to end in 2017 with a film called The Kid from the Big Apple, Before We Forget, which is a shame. I'd like to see him. I like him to have a long career, just like his dad. I mean, we watched T. Lung recently. Was it called Staycation, the film? Like a Chinese New Year one?
We also saw him in the one with Shu Qi recently, didn't we? One of the romantic films.
All You Need Is Love.
All You Need Is Love. That's the one.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting confused. We do have the other film, but All You Need Is Love is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And T. Lung for me still got it. He's still got it. And I'd like to see his son prosper and, do more films. Because I think, judging just by this small role, that he's got, plenty of talent in the bank.
Definitely. I really enjoyed his character, and I look forward to the scenes. When you realise he was in the scene, I was like, oh yay,
Yeah,
I like him. But maybe he's just having some sort of career break. Maybe
maybe.
he'll come back in a year or so.
I think we may have to go back and maybe look at some other films on his filmography, and see what they're like. In fact, I do know we do have another film with him in, which is Beauty on Duty.
Oh, I just saw that one, and I was thinking, I bet that's a comedy.
Yeah.
Is it a comedy?
Oh yes, comedy, romance comedy.
Oh, brilliant.
So Charlene Choi and
Sandra Ing,
yep, Wong Jing's in there.
Lam Suet.
But unfortunately, Sean Tam is quite down the cast on that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we will have a little look around and see what else we can find. See if we can find any more leading roles for him in.
I wonder what Fortune Cookies is about.
Who knows? And I've got to say, for me, Simon Yam's right up there in my top Hong Kong actors ever.
Of course.
I absolutely love Simon Yam. And as Paulie said to Rocky in Rocky 4, if I could unzip myself and be somebody else for one day, I'd be you. And that's you, Mr. Yam. I'd be you. But maybe not in this film.
No, he wasn't playing a very decent character in this, was he?
He wasn't, and I don't think he was dramatically pushed either.
No, he wasn't.
He just seemed to be, I don't know. Was he phoning it in? He just seemed to be taking a paycheck to me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he did, but
No.
It didn't spark anything in me, his character in this.
It wasn't a demanding role, was it?
Yeah, he was the flattest part of the film for me, which was disappointing for me to say, because, like I say, I've got Mr. Yam on a pedestal there, and absolutely love him in his roles. I guess I'm just used to him stealing every film he's in.
Yeah, but this wasn't that sort of film. I mean, he was one of the, not as important characters. The main focus was the two women.
Yeah. It was just like a prop for the story to be propelled on, basically.
So to sum it up, would you recommend this one?
Without hesitation.
Yeah.
In fact, I pretty much demand go and watch this film. Do it now. Stop playing this podcast. Get on your computer and order yourself a copy. Do yourself a favour, because this is a fantastic film. A1.
I would recommend it as well, although I would say I preferred the first half of the film to the second half.
So there you have it, folks. A slight divide between Shaz and Leon this time. HKB not quite in harmony, which doesn't happen often. But, you guys go and watch and let us know what you think.
We both did think, though, not that far into it, that it reminded us of a series of films, the Before Midnight trilogy of films.
Talking my favourite trilogy ever there.
Yeah.
Richard Linklater's films with Ethan Hawke
Yes.
and Julie Delpy.
Yeah.
Best trilogy ever for me. And people are now wondering, like, what on earth is that? But honestly, such good films. I mean, the three of those are just practically perfect.
Yeah.
In each and every way. You won't see a better acted performance than between the two leads in those films.
Yeah. And I think we sort of felt that because the first film in that trilogy is they're in so the two characters are in a European city just sort of wandering around, aren't they?
Yeah.
And something with the feel that we got from that film, we got from the beginning of this film with Anita Mui sort of travelling on her own.
Yeah, we did. And it had that there. We both thought of it.
Yeah.
And so it's got to be there. Yeah.
So a large portion of Midnight Fly was actually filmed in English.
Yes, it's very interesting to hear Anita Mui speak in English. I mean, I know we have before. I think it was her voice in Rumble in the Bronx. I may be wrong on that. But, a lot of these Hong Kong actors are very fluent in English. And also the Japanese girl, she was very, very good in this as well. Their English, and I think Simon Yam spoke some English. It's very good, and there's not many Hong Kong movies that are shot with that much English in. We've seen a few in our time,
Yeah.
There's a little bit in Undeclared War, And I can't think of many off the top of my head, but there are some Hong Kong films that are shot in English, and this falls into that category.
I guess so. It was mainly because it was the common language that both Michelle and Mickey could speak, could get buy-in.
And if you think of it not being their main language, and then having to act in a secondary language to them, that again just proves what versatile and strong actresses they both are.
Absolutely.
And the other people that speak English in this as well.
Yeah.
For you, how do you find it when the Hong Kong actors do scenes in English in these films?
They're really good. Well, for Anita Mui, I think she could have probably done all of this film in English. I think she was, really fluent in it. I think Mickey's character was a bit more just putting together sentences as best she could to get by, to be able to communicate like you would do in a second language if you weren't ultra fluent in it. To make whole sentences, you just pick out the most important words.
For all we know, she could be completely fluent in English and she's acting to not be as fluent.
Exactly. I think possibly that was it. I mean, I think even Michelle's character was doing odd bits. I don't feel either of them were 100% fluid, but I think that was for the purpose of the film, to communicate that they were using a common language between the pair of them to communicate. Because I'm guessing Michelle's character didn't know Japanese and Mickey didn't know Cantonese.
Yes, and what I do notice when I'm watching a Hong Kong movie or any other foreign movie where there's English speaking segments and I've got subtitles on, is I still always read the subtitles.
Yeah, me too.
It's impossible not to, and very interesting to see the differences in the words that are said as to the words that are typed.
I noticed it more actually at the beginning with the French tour guide. The subtitles that were coming up on the screen didn't actually match what he was saying. I mean, it was still the same gist, but it wasn't mirroring it.
No.
And I found that quite funny.
Yeah. You don't need to translate this bit; it's already there. But yeah, it is interesting, and I, for those of you out there that get this one, don't be surprised. It's like I don't know, 60-70% English. We do have some still, I think it's Cantonese in it, and a little bit Japanese too. You've got a mix of languages in there, so it's not your usual completely Cantonese or Mandarin speaking film.
But that is because they were travelling around. Like you say, they were in France, sort of the first part, and then they moved to Morocco. I can't remember if did they go somewhere in between that? I don't think they did. It was just France and Morocco, wasn't it?
I think you're right. I think it was just France and Morocco, and that was enough. That was enough for this film. The locations were great, and the multiculturalness of it was a good aspect, strong aspect to this film.
佢可能死咗啦。
嗰個喺車入邊啊，Mickey。
如果喺車入邊，佢點解唔落車？
無論係生係死，一日冇嘅消息，我係唔會走。
And now for something completely different. We go beyond Hong Kong. So, Leon, where have we been beyond this week?
Well, we've been to Great Britain for one, watching the end of Gangs of London Season 2.
You think you know this world you're in? I've seen things you haven't. You know how it feels to be powerless, to be a pawn in someone else's game. The things it makes you do. What does it feel like to be a king?
So this show was created by Gareth Evans, from the director of The Raid 1 and 2, and also Merrentau Warrior. Struggled a bit to remember there. But, a film with Iko Uwais. That's where he started his career, with Gareth Evans. And we really, really enjoyed Gangs of London, the first season. It had one of the best shootouts I've seen anywhere ever.
Yeah.
And we were very much looking forward to watching Gangs of London 2. starts off great. There's some fantastic action in it. I think it was episode 8 that really, really blew me away. It was one of the female members of the cast that had a really strong episode there.
Yeah, she did.
But what did we think when it came to the end, Shaz?
I was quite disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah, I felt that a couple of the main characters suddenly went back on their beliefs throughout the whole first and second series, and it just didn't feel real to me. You know, someone dead against gangs and things suddenly wants to become one of the sort of gang members and leaders.
Yeah.
It just seemed a bit implausible.
Yeah, it was disappointing, and I mean the setup all the way along was really, really good. I was enjoying the show quite a lot, and then the last couple of episodes seemed a bit of a cop out to me. It was a bit like, okay, right, we've given all the excitement, all the edginess. Now we're going to set up for season 3.
Yeah, and I think they should have finished it at season 2 and just made it a believable ending.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh yeah, we want to make another series, so let's just change the plot completely to leave it open so we can pick it up again.
Swallow this brick-sized pill, you'll be fine. No, we're not.
No, well, I sort of don't really feel that inclined to watch series 3 when it's out.
No, if I do, it would be just for the action sequences, which are still quite phenomenal in this. I was quite chuffed to see Big Z in there right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Sylvicus. I mean, I don't know if you guys out there watch World Strongman. Something Shaz and I have done together ever since we've been together.
Yeah.
Every Christmas to New Year, we watch World's Strongest Man. So straight away we saw him. It's Big Z!
Yeah, well, you recognised him to start with, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember, yeah.
Sylvicus, yes, that was cool. I'm not sure about recommending this. I would say if you're a big fan, Gareth Evans, and you want to see everything he does, go watch this. He didn't direct the second season, though.
Okay.
That, to me, may have been source of the problem. I don't know. Maybe it's the writing. I think it's the writing for me, you know. The guys were still good in the roles.
Oh, yeah, the actors are good.
But
you need a strong stomach, though, because it is very brutal, very violent.
Yeah,
so
it just didn't have the same impact as season 1. So, for me, I'm like on the fence as to whether or not I want to watch season 3 if they do one.
The city's changed. The investors have a new player.
He has a major stake in this town now. Manpower. Allies. He's not to be underestimated.
Elliot's back.
I want them to know fear. To feel powerless.
You don't know who this man is, do you?
So, Shaz, where else have we been beyond Hong Kong?
So we have also been to London again, Ukraine, and Russia in Legacy of Lies.
Police are investigating the sudden illness of a Russian opposition activist named Sergei Skuratov.
We consider this an act of war.
The Russians' position in this case is becoming increasingly bizarre. You know what the next step is? They're going to start blaming the Americans.
This is a major incident. It was attempted murder by administration of a nerve agent.
We're here because of your little tete-a-tete with that Cuban portal.
Need you to pack your stuff, Liz.
Why is it always...
I haven't got time to argue with you. Just pack your stuff.
Now, this stars Scott Adkins, and we like the look of it. We saw it on Netflix.
Yep.
Netflix, wasn't it? And it started quite promisingly.
Yes, we are Scott Adkins fans. We don't often cover all the freshest, newest martial art movies, but we do like to just sit down and watch them. So maybe that's sometimes why we don't, because we don't want to be putting our thinking heads on. And one of the guys we like to watch when we're not thinking all the time is Scott Adkins, because he's a lot of fun. Super talented martial artist, very charismatic individual, just like myself. Could be my brother. But yeah, no, I do love Scott Adkins, and Legacy of Lies. We hadn't watched this one until this week, and I thought we're in for a good time. And to start off, I thought, yeah, this is what we want. This is right up there in terms of action and stuff. And then it all went downhill from halfway.
It did, yeah. It felt as if it thought it was something else, something better.
Yeah, I think so. I think they were trying to push the envelope a little bit in terms of what they were trying to do, and I don't think they needed to do. A straightforward standard action film, that would have been fine, you know.
Yeah.
Carried on with the action that we were getting halfway through, maybe amped it up a little bit towards the end. I'd have been in my element. I'd have absolutely loved it. But I don't recognise the director's name in this, Adrian Ball.
He's done a few things over the last 15 years or so. I don't think we've watched any of those. Something called Blind Spot.
No, so it's a very short filmography as director. There's 6 films from 2005 up to 2020. I wouldn't be surprised if Legacy of Lies was his last one. That being said, there's a fairly even gap between them. It wasn't the worst film that I've seen, but to me it's like a 5.5 out of 10. It was just scraping above middle of the road, and you know, I look for the best in films usually. You know what I'm like. I like to find the positives.
Yeah.
And the positives in this was you had Scott Adkins, tick. You know, always good. You had some fight choreography, tick. That was good.
That was good, yeah.
After that, I'm struggling.
The story a bit off. You
Yeah.
know, jetting around here, there, and everywhere, trying to get his daughter back she'd been captured by the Russians to make him do something, to get some files or something. Oh, that's what I meant to say to you last night. Was it files or vials they wanted? Because it looked like in that little casey full of like liquid or something.
Yeah, both. I think both.
So I didn't understand that.
I will give the shout out to the young girl that played his daughter. I think she was the strongest in this performance-wise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if she climbs the ladder and does some other stuff later on. But yeah, this one, you know, if you've got Netflix and you're a big Scott Adkins fan, maybe you might want to watch it. Maybe you might think we're lunatics, and
I think we're being a bit harsh, and you really enjoy it.
Yeah, you really enjoyed it, which is fair dues. And we never criticise anybody for enjoying something we don't. We're like maybe just envious that you got some enjoyment out of something that we didn't. And that's pretty much always going to be our take on it. So if you did like this, and you know, you can educate us as to the reason why and what we're missing, that's fine. We won't tell you that you're wrong. We'll be interested to listen, and maybe it might make us look a little bit differently on it. So, you know, if there's any Legacy of Lies fans out there, you know, let us know, and we will listen. That's a promise.
So would you recommend this one?
Nope. That being said, nope.
I recommend you watch the first half and then maybe pause it there and come back to it later.
Watch it if you can see it for free or as part of your subscription, but I wouldn't dash out and buy it.
Martin Baxter, ex-spy with a troubled soul. I want the files and the reporter. Dead or alive, I don't care.
The Russians have got Lisa and they're gonna kill her. Try to get the case to them by 10 p.m. tonight. She's dead. Do you know what we're up against, right?
I want those files published.
When you quit MI6, we had an agreement. You don't mess with our business, we don't mess with yours.
So, that's it for Beyond Hong Kong section this episode.
So that's all for now, HK and Beyonders. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. So it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Leon.
Goodbye.